Have you ever felt that invisible shift in your consciousness, like gravity itself is pulling you toward a higher version of yourself? Newton discovered that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, but what he didn't tell you is that this law governs your psychological evolution too. Right now, as you listen to this, your soul is pushing against the weight of who you used to be, creating an equal force propelling you toward who you're becoming. What if I told you that the confusion you feel isn't weakness, but the exact scientific proof that you're leveling up? Newton spent years in isolation during the plague, and that's when his greatest discoveries emerged. Your isolation, your struggles, your quiet battles, they're not breaking you down, they're breaking you through. Today, I'm revealing the 10 undeniable signs that you've already ascended to your next level. Signs that Newton himself understood but never explicitly documented in his journals. The first sign is profound and almost terrifying in its simplicity. You've stopped waiting for someone else to rescue you from your own life. Newton understood this when he said that objects at rest tend to stay at rest unless acted upon by an external force. But here's what he really discovered. You are that force. You wake up one morning and realize the cavalry isn't coming. There's no mystical adult who's going to swoop in and fix your sleep schedule, heal your attachment wounds, or delete that toxic person's number from your phone. You're standing in the center of your own existence like a planet that just discovered it has its own gravity. This isn't abandonment, it's awakening. You stop scrolling through motivational quotes looking for permission to change. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, the right mood, the ideal circumstances. Tonight, look in the mirror and say, I am the force that moves my life. You realize that waiting is just fear wearing a patient mask. Newton's first law tells us that motion requires force, and you finally understand that you are both the force and the object being moved. When did you first realize that no one else could live your life for you? This realization doesn't come with fanfare or celebration. It arrives quietly, like dawn breaking over a landscape you've been stumbling through in darkness. The second unmistakable sign hits different. You've developed what Newton would call emotional inertia, the ability to remain at rest even when chaos swirls around you. People throw their projections at you like arrows, but instead of catching them, you let them pass through empty space. Your peace has become a fortress built from understanding, not isolation. Someone sends a passive-aggressive text, and instead of crafting a dissertation in response, you simply observe it like a scientist studying a specimen. You recognize bait when you see it now. That friend who only reaches out when you're glowing. That ex who resurfaces every time you're healing. That family member who mistakes your boundaries for betrayal. Newton discovered that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But you've learned something deeper. You don't have to provide that reaction. Practice this today. When triggered, count to 10 before responding. You've stopped participating in other people's drama because you understand that their chaos is not your equation to solve. Your nervous system has recalibrated from constantly being in fight or flight to simply being. What would happen if you stopped reacting to every provocation? This isn't weakness or avoidance. This is the highest form of emotional intelligence, the kind that Newton exhibited when he chose solitude over society's noise. The third sign is both liberating and heartbreaking. You've stopped needing closure from people who hurt you. Newton's third law states that forces always come in pairs, but you've discovered that healing doesn't require the other half of that equation. You're writing your own ending to stories that left you bleeding in ellipses. That person who ghosted you, who betrayed you, who promised forever and delivered temporary. You've stopped waiting for their explanation. You've stopped rehearsing the conversation where they finally understand the damage they caused. Write one unsent letter today, then burn it. You realize that closure is something you give yourself, not something you extract from others. Newton understood that some equations can't be solved with the variables you're given, so you change the entire formula. You look at the scar tissue where trust used to live, and instead of hiding it, you honor it as proof of survival? Why do we think we need permission from those who hurt us to heal from what they did? The maturity isn't in pretending it didn't hurt. It's in choosing to heal without the apology you deserved. You've stopped being a detective in your own heartbreak, searching for clues about why they couldn't love you right. Give like if you've lived this. What city are you watching me from? Sign number 4 will shake you to your core. You've mastered the art of strategic silence. Newton spent more time in contemplation than conversation, understanding that silence is where truth crystals form from the solution of chaos. You've stopped defending yourself against every misconception. You've stopped turning your boundaries into PowerPoint presentations for people committed to misunderstanding you. Someone says you've changed, and instead of writing a thesis about your growth journey, you simply smile and agree. Yes, you've changed. That was the point. You've learned that not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every opinion requires a rebuttal. Go one full day without explaining yourself unnecessarily. Newton knew that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transformed, and you've stopped wasting yours on people who demand explanations for your evolution. What if your silence speaks louder than any argument ever could? You've discovered that people who truly see you don't need lengthy explanations, and those who don't see you wouldn't understand them anyway. This isn't arrogance, it's conservation of energy. You're applying Newton's principles to your emotional economy, investing your words only where they generate actual momentum. The 5th sign is subtle, but revolutionary. You've started choosing discipline over dopamine with the precision of a physicist calculating trajectories. Newton's laws of motion apply to your habits too. An object in motion stays in motion, and you've become the object moving toward your highest self. That notification lighting up your phone isn't excitement anymore. It's a distraction from the life you're building brick by brick. You wake up and make your bed not because anyone's watching, but because you understand that small actions create compound interest in your self-respect account. Tomorrow, do one thing you don't feel like doing just to prove you can. Newton discovered calculus to explain change over time, and you're applying that same principle to your daily choices. Each decision is a derivative of who you're becoming. You don't need the instant gratification anymore because you've tasted the slow burn satisfaction of genuine progress. When did comfort become less important than growth? You're not posting about your morning routine, you're living it. You're not announcing your boundaries, you're enforcing them. The dopamine hit from likes and validation feels cheap compared to the deep satisfaction of keeping promises to yourself. Give, like, share, subscribe. What city are you watching me from? Have you experienced this transformation? Know someone who has. Share your story here. You help the algorithm and might save someone right now. Sign 6 is perhaps the most painful awakening. You've stopped falling in love with potential and started seeing reality with Newton's unflinching clarity. Love isn't a force that bends reality, it's a force that should reveal it. That person you've been waiting to change, to grow, to finally see your worth, you've stopped writing their character development in your head. Newton understood that you can't change an object's trajectory without applying force. And you finally accepted that you can't be the force that changes someone else's path. List 3 things you love about someone based on who they are today, not who they could be. You've learned to love people where they are, not where you need them to be for your story to make sense. The person who promises change but delivers consistency in their chaos. The job that dangles promotion but keeps you stagnant. The friendship that takes but never gives. You see them now with the same clarity Newton saw the apple fall. What would happen if you loved reality more than potential? This isn't cynicism, it's wisdom. You're not giving up on people. You're giving up on the exhausting job of being their potential's cheerleader while your actual needs go unmet. The 7th sign arrives like gravitational enlightenment. You've become your own parent with the tenderness Newton showed toward his life's work. You're both the scientist and the experiment, the observer and the observed. When anxiety rises like a tide, you don't drown in it. You speak to yourself the way you needed someone to speak to you when you were 7 and scared, 17 and lost, 27 and falling apart. Hey, sweetheart, you're safe now. We're going to breathe through this together. Tonight, before bed, tell yourself 3 things you needed to hear as a child. Newton understood that every force has magnitude and direction, and you've learned to direct compassion inward with the same intensity you once reserved for others. You catch yourself mid-spiral and gently redirect, like a loving parent guiding a child away from danger. You're not harsh with your healing anymore. You don't shame yourself for feeling. You've become the safe space you searched for in others. What would change if you spoke to yourself with unconditional love? This isn't self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. Newton's laws govern the physical universe, but you're governing your internal universe with the same precision and care. Sign 8 is liberation disguised as loss. You're disappearing from places that no longer align with your frequency, and Newton would understand this perfectly. Objects vibrating at different frequencies simply cannot occupy the same space harmoniously. Your absence isn't announced, it's just noticed eventually. The group chat you've gone quiet in, the gatherings you politely decline, the social media accounts gathering dust. You're not angry at these spaces. You've just outgrown them like a snake outgrows its skin. Delete one app or leave one group that drains your energy today. Newton spent years in solitude, not because he hated people, but because his work required a frequency that society's noise disrupted. You understand this now. Your growth requires space that some relationships don't allow. You're not abandoning people. You're abandoning versions of yourself that you wore to make others comfortable. Who would you become if you stopped showing up to places that shrink you? The friends who matter will understand. They'll either grow with you or cheer your growth from where they are. But you can't stay small to keep others comfortable anymore. Newton's gravity keeps planets in orbit, but it doesn't stop them from spinning on their own axis. Comment, I will prove this if you're applying this today. Sign 9 feels like coming home to yourself. You've developed an almost mystical ability to spot authenticity versus performance, the way Newton could see invisible forces governing visible movements. Truth has a frequency that falsehood can never replicate, and you've become a tuning fork for genuineness. That person love-bombing you with excessive charm. You see the agenda behind the attention. The friend who only shows up when there's an audience. You notice the performance. The family member who weaponizes vulnerability. You recognize the manipulation dressed as connection. Today, trust your first instinct about someone without needing proof. Newton's genius wasn't just in seeing the apple fall, but in understanding why. Your genius is in seeing not just what people do, but understanding what drives them. You don't judge them for it. You just adjust your distance accordingly. What if your intuition has been right all along? You're not paranoid or too sensitive. You've just developed the ability to read the physics of human behavior. Every action reveals the force behind it, and you've become fluent in this invisible language. The 10th and final sign is the most profound. You've achieved what Newton called equilibrium. All forces in balance, creating perfect stillness that contains infinite potential. You like your own company now. Not in a forced solitude way, but in a genuine enjoyment of your own presence. You laugh at your own thoughts, dance in your kitchen alone, have full conversations with yourself that solve real problems. Newton's greatest discoveries came in solitude, and you've discovered that your greatest companion has always been you. Spend one entire evening doing exactly what you want, alone, without documenting it. You don't need constant validation anymore because you've become your own source of approval. The person you see in the mirror isn't perfect, but they're real. They're trying, they're evolving according to natural laws that Newton would marvel at. Who did you become when you stopped performing for an audience? This is the ultimate level up. Not needing to prove your level to anyone. You're living it, breathing it, becoming it every single day. Newton changed the world by understanding forces everyone else ignored. You're changing your world by understanding the force you've always been. Think about who you'll become when these signs are your daily reality. Choose one principle. Practice it for 7 days. You will transform.